Okay, what I'm going to go over in this video is how to go from 2.2 Hornet to 1.7 Hornet, and this will be ready for trimming and fire forming. So this first stage is just the process to neck down the case from 2.2 Hornet to 1.7 Hornet. For this you'll need a standard set of 1.7 Hornet dies. I've got a set from Reading which includes the full length sizing die and the bullet seating die. We're going to use the bullet seating die to do the initial necking down, and then once the case has been necked down, we use the Reading form and trim die. Where's the box lid? It's the Reading form and trim die, number 83279. This is probably going to be a little tricky to get hold of, but most reloading shops can order this in for you. So I got mine from Spud, 1967 Reloading. But I know UK Reloading Solutions also do them, and probably other people as well. So the first step is, as I said, to neck these cases down. We're going to use the bullet seating die, and you remove the actual kind of seating stem out of the die itself. Put that to one side. Pop your shell holder in the press, pop your die in, a little bit of lube. I use Imperial sizing wax, that's my favourite. A little bit around the case neck, and then feed the case up into the press, but not all the way, and just gently feed it up, feeling the resistance until you've got about 1 millimetre between the shell holder and the base of the die, assuming you've already set this up to seat bullets. You've already set your bullet seating die up to seat the bullets. Put this in so you just kind of form about that much of the neck, and then it's a case of taking out your bullet seating die, I need some more breech lock parts. Pop in the, okay, for the Reading form and trim die you need an elongated or longer shell holder that Reading make to go alongside this die. I forget the part number, but it will be listed. Screw that into your press. You've already set it up so that when the ram travels to its fullest extent, it kisses the bottom of that form and trim die. Then pop your shell into the shell holder. Move it up to the top, and I don't know if you can see that, but you can see the case at the top of the form and trim die, and as you push down on the lever on the ram, you'll see a little bit of the case start to pop out of the top. It's about 1 mil clear. At this point, you're supposed to file this down. I find that doesn't give exactly the right length. We'll come to that later, but I just feed it through until a little bit of the shell extends through the form and trim die, and then remove the case, put it to one side, and I'll trim that with a Ellie Wilson case trimmer in the next step. Okay, in this video we're going to take the sized, neck sized and shoulder sized, false shoulder sized 2.2 Hornet to 1.7 Hornet case. We're going to trim it down to a length that when fire formed in your rifle's chamber will give you a fireform case somewhere between 1.340 and 1.348, which allows you to trim back to semi-spec of 1.340. The actual length you need to trim to will take a little bit of fine-tuning depending on your rifle's chamber. I looked online, the general consensus was it should be 1.355, and fortunately that kind of works in my chamber. It's very likely it'll work in your rifle's chamber too, but just bear in mind you may need to adjust that 1 or 2 thousandths of an inch in either direction once you've fireformed your first set of cases. So I'm using a Wilson case trimmer with micrometer adjustment, and you need a 2.2 Hornet case holder, because obviously these cases haven't been fireformed yet. And what we do is we measure the case, just zero the micrometer in. We zero the case, and we get a reading, which is, I don't know if you can see that, it's 1.406. Which, using my rather dodgy mental arithmetic, means that I need to take about 51 thousandths off the size of the case. Now this gauge on the micrometer goes up to 50, is graduated from up to 50 thousandths of an inch. So I slacken off the lock nut. I'm going to adjust underneath initially. So that should give me 6 thousandths too long. Pop the shell in the shell holder, give it a tap to secure, move the arm across, and let's do an initial trim. One other thing to note is if you're using the Ellie Wilson case trimmer, because the necks on these cases are quite small, the standard cutter won't allow you to cut the neck. The shoulder is too wide on this sort of central shoulder is too wide, and it won't allow you to cut the neck, so you need to purchase a small caliber neck cutter. Give it a tap to release it. Give it a quick measure. It should be somewhere near, yeah, and as we guessed, that is still 6 thousandths over. So it's all done in small increments. So we're going to go another 3 thousandths of an inch just to make sure. Because obviously you can't put metal back on. You can take metal off quite easily, but we can't stick it back on. Give it a little tap, pop it in the shell holder, move the micrometer out of the way. Give it another little whirly with the cutter. And a measure. Once this is set up once, you can just go ahead and do every other case. It's going to be, right, we're 1 thousandth off there. It's going to be pretty consistent. So you can just set it up once and then, you know, do all your cases at the same time. So let's just stick 1 more thousandth on that. Lock it off. Pop the case in. That's not going to take much to trim that back. I think we're there. It's quite difficult to hold. Right. Should be reading 1.355. So we're there. That is now the right length for fireforming. There's another step to the process, or several other steps to the process. What I like to do at this stage is give the neck a little inside chamfer with the chamfering tool. And then I use this Redding flash hole deburring tool. The thing with this tool is because it's got no depth stop sort of built into the tip, you set the depth stop up manually. So I've already set this up for 1.355 long cases, PPU cases, and you can adjust this little depth stop. So you sort of pop it into the case until you just see the tip of the cutter popping through, and then I move this back a couple of thousandths of an inch, and that's good to go then. So you pop that in and give it a couple of turns, and material will come out of the case. That's the flash hole being deburred and uniformed. And then I like to go over the primer pockets as well with a K&M primer pocket tool, and use the handle. Don't attach it to a drill. It tends to be too aggressive if you attach it to a drill. So a couple of whizzes around with the K&M tool. This is already set to the correct depth when it arrives from the factory, so you don't need to do any fine tuning of it. You can just use it, and then again another little tap. That's cleared out any imperfections in the primer pocket, so the primers will seat correctly. Final job is to tap that out, and again I use the Ellie Wilson small caliber. This is 1/7 to 45 caliber outside neck chamfering tool and inside neck chamfering tool, and just lightly do the outside neck chamfer, and then we're almost there. Very finally, I take a 1/7 cal brush and just upend the case, give it a little brush, and make sure any debris has been cleared from that case mouth, and that's us done. Sorry, what I should have said was that's us almost done. So these are the, I've got 2 trimmed cases. These have been trimmed, flash holes deburred, primer pockets uniformed. They've already been through the Reading Foreman trim die, but the next step before we go ahead and anneal these cases is I like to run them through the full length sizing die. Now this is only because when you're trimming these, the cutter is working on this face, and this face is it's thin brass, isn't it? So the cutter's working on that thin brass, and you could argue that there could be some slight deformity put into the shape of the case neck before we go ahead and anneal it and prime it, fill it with powder, put a bullet in it and shoot it. So just before we anneal it, because obviously I don't want to do this after I anneal it because I've softened the brass by annealing it, is to pop my full length sizing die in, and just run it through the full length sizing die to make sure that that neck is uniform. And then that is it. So the next step will be annealing this brass. As I said, I'll show you how easy that is to do, and then we're ready to prime, load and fire form the brass.